All right, welcome to another episode of Under the Dome. A pre-4th of July, July 3rd, July 4th Eve. Would that work? I guess. Um, it's the off season. I mean, and it's the dead time before training camp starts, and training camp starts what in 25 days?
27.
20. It's do
29th.
they go into 29th?
Yes.
Okay, 29th. All right. Um, I'm your host tonight, Alan Ulrich. I'm here with my partner, Sean Williams, and I'm hoping that you don't end up losing the signal with that thunderstorm coming your way.
Yeah, it looks like that movie Twister, like the opening credits when all the names are being blown off the screen. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of what it looks like outside, but we gonna go until the roof comes off.
Well, there you go. There you go. Um, okay, so there's not a whole heck of a lot to talk about right now, but Sean Payton, got involved in a friendly wager, and this was the only Saints news this week, and he bet the Eagles coach, Doug Peterson, who is from your neck of the woods, I guess in a golf game. And the winning bet was that the Eagles get to wear their home jerseys at a game, which is no big deal because the Saints like to wear their white jerseys the first month of the year anyway. So I don't know what to make of that. But it led to a whole discussion about jerseys, jersey combinations, because the league, I think, has come out and said you can wear your alternate jersey up to 3 times in a season. And, Nike's our distributor now for the NFL. So they're fruit for 10,000 jerseys and alternate helmets. And, just look at Oregon, for example, in college football. So I guess that leads to the question we have tonight. Number one, what jersey, if you look at the whole history of the Saints organization, what jersey is probably your favorite jersey or favorite look? And what would be your favorite color combination? John?
My favorite color combination is more than likely always going to be black jerseys, black pants, black cleats.
You're one of those, huh?
Yeah, the memories of that uniform combination are strong. As far as my favorite, I don't guess I really have a favorite. I loved this style here when it was with Reebok. I don't like the way that the Nike jerseys fit because they're player cut, which means they're going to be tight around the neck and tight around the sleeves and tight everywhere else. And these Reebok jerseys are more of the old style, like when we played the tearaway type jerseys.
Tearaway! Wow.
Throwback.
We had the fishnets even.
Yeah.
Remember those in the early 80s?
Oh yeah.
The Philadelphia Eagles used to wear those. Speaking of the Eagles.
Yeah.
So you're you're big black on black combo, huh?
To be honest with you, we played in the quote unquote era.
The back in black look, huh?
Yes, indeed.
Go ahead.
Had a moment there. If you want to call it the era of the color rush on the Thursday night games, we played 3 times, if I'm correct. And all 3 times we were the visiting team. So our color rush ensemble, as it were, always wound up being the visitor's jersey, which meant white. I would have loved to have seen, I've seen that neon nightmare that Seattle wore. I would have loved to have seen what kind of uniform they could have put together with a black, not black, with a gold combination. I think it would have come out to be a much better. Uh, I don't know the word I'm looking for. I think that the result would have been even better than the gold jerseys that the team only wore the one time that Tom Benson hated so much.
Yeah, they only wore. Yeah, that was back in 2002. And that's the interesting part. With the alternate jersey, what will the Saints wear as their alternate jersey? Is it going to be the throwbacks? Is it going to be, because that's normally what they do whenever they go to the throwbacks. I mean, we go to the alternate jersey. They go right to the throwbacks. I'm going to say one of my favorite color combinations. This one right here, the black jersey with the white pants. They haven't worn those since Benson bought the team in '85. They wore this look from 76 to 85. 75, they wore white on top, white on the bottom too. And that kind of looked hideous because, especially on that old film footage, it just looks so bleached out and blah. It looks a lot sharper because of the material they make the uniforms out of now. That's the throwback, the color rush look. And I actually like the white color rush because it's the jersey pants like these, but the jersey top reminds me of the jerseys from 67 to 1970. The gold numbers with the gold stripe. And while we're at it, okay, this is just me because I'm crazy like this. I don't understand why. Okay, on the old jerseys, you look at these here. You see how the striping goes around the sleeve like that? Because they've shortened the sleeve so much, the striping now is only this. I don't have a throwback picture up here. The striping is only, this far. It only goes this far. It doesn't go completely around. And that always bothered me. You look at the Colts uniform, for example. The Colts have the old style with the stripes on the shoulders, and they stop halfway. So you got this little bitty thing that stops halfway because the material actually changes. They've got reinforcements built all over if you ever look at an authentic jersey, you can see all the different contrasts as, parts of the jersey. And it just looks stupid. I've never understood why it just doesn't go completely around, completely around the arm, completely around the shoulder. And I miss the numbers being on the sleeve instead of on the shoulders. I know they have them on there for television, but I always like those. So, put me down for, I'd like to see the Saints wear the 76 to 84 jerseys one time. The white pants with the black jersey, the striping on the sleeve, the number on the sleeve, the whole bit. That would be kind of cool to see for a change.
I always thought when I was a kid and I was getting ready to venture into the bigger program and getting to play on the high school field, and I thought the signal that I had arrived as a football player was when I had a jersey with my name on the back and a number on my shoulder. Because when we were kids, we didn't get the number on the shoulder. We just got front and back.
Yep.
And I remember the first jersey that I got that had the number 37 on over here on the shoulder. I slept in that the night before the game, and that I was superstitious that way.
Well, when you first get your jersey, and I don't care what age you are, the first time you get to play in your own jersey, that kind of becomes your first number. So sometimes that number kind of influences you the rest of your life. Like, what was your first number of your first jersey you ever wore? Do you remember?
Yeah. I wore number 8 because I played quarterback. And the reason the people find this humorous, the reason that I wore 8 was because they wouldn't let me wear 58. I was
Really?
a huge Jack Lambert fan. So I wanted number 58, and they said, you can't wear that to play quarterback. I said, then make it 8. And I wore that for 1 year. And then that was, I think, following that football, it was sometime between that football season and the next football season that the tragedy occurred here in our town, as a matter of fact, with Joe Delaney, where he, former Northwestern State ball player, went on to play with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And he tragically lost his life trying to save 2 boys drowning in a water park here just across the river, as a matter of fact. Well, when that happened, I knew who Joe Delaney was, and he was a guy that played the same position that I played, and he was from Louisiana. Of course, at this point in time, I'm in Northwest Oklahoma, but that had a profound impact on me, not just the way that he played, but what his life stood for and everything. So that's the reason that I started wearing the number 37. Now, when I was in high school, I didn't have the opportunity to wear number 37 because our school didn't have that. But that was my freshman year was, I think, the freshman year of Dalton Hilliard at LSU. So I wore number 21 until I finished high school.
Well, in playground ball, my numbers were 54, 30, and 42. And 42 was the only number I actually got to pick. And that was Chuck Muncie's number. So I wanted 42. Now, when I got 54, no, it had to be when I got 30. When I got 30, I wanted 88 because that was Lynn Swan's number. And I wanted to be Lynn Swan. And, I wanted to go out there and catch passes like Lynn Swan and the whole bit. I was a slow, skinny white kid, but I wanted to go out there and catch passes in the playground. You got the helmet and the whole bit on, and that was my goal. Jump up in the air at the highest point. Like the kid could actually throw the ball to me, but anyway, jump up in the air at the highest point. Well, yeah, because you buy your football equipment, okay? You're 9, 10 years old. You got football equipment on. You've got shoulder pads on that are not. Then they're kid shoulder pads, but they're the same shoulder pads whether you're an offensive lineman, a running back, a quarterback, a cornerback. It's these huge pads. And if you're a little kid, all you are shoulder pads. Mm-hmm. So, some kid trying to throw a football with these things on, he can't get his arm up high enough to throw the ball. So, and they just didn't do that kind of stuff, in the 70s. I mean, he just went out there and knocked people around. I will tell you this, that my second concussion, I think. It is my second concussion. I ever got was we were doing a version of the Oklahoma drills. And at 9 and 10 years old, coaches were insane. But anyway, our running back, we on playground ball, we were the Baltimore Colts. Okay. And our running back, like to lower his helmet and put it in your chest and run kids over. He thought that was a big deal. That was great, running these kids over. So, you're in the line to do the one-on-one drill, and I'm counting. Okay. I'm going, okay, where's he at? All right. He's number 4, and he 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's he and I. Gotcha. So we get up there, and it's now him and I facing each other down. I got my mouthpiece in. The old mouthpiece used to stick in the hot water and soften up so you can form in your mouth. I got my mouthpiece in, and I said, all right, let's go. You ain't running me over today. He lowered his helmet. I lowered my head. The worst thing in the world you could possibly do. And like 2 rams butting heads. boom, you hear the helmets crack across the playground. Coaches all, ooh, and that whole bit. I saw stars. I didn't know where I was. He's rolling around on the ground, that kind of thing. And today, the police would be there. I mean, there'd be lawyers out there, everything else. But back then, it was just like, all right, kid, you get some smelling salts, get back in line. We're going again.
Rub
some
dirt
on it. Yeah, we're going again. But yeah, that was my second ever concussion. My first ever concussion was when I decided to find out how, the driveway was wet. It was a sealed driveway, and man, you can skate on this thing. And I go sliding across, like think I'm now this is of course a decade before he did it, but I think I'm Tom Cruise in Risky Business doing old time rock and roll. I go sliding across that concrete, and my feet kick out from under me and knock me out. And my parents are like outside talking to people who are just leaving our house, and I'm out there screwing around. I'm 4 years old. You can skate on this. Pow! Yeah. Yeah, you can skate on that. Genius.
Well, that's like nowadays, man. People with flat screens don't understand the reality of a 42-inch screen attached to a 4,200-pound casing behind the screen for a TV back when we were kids. And usually it sat maybe 2 to 3 feet off the floor on probably a serving table. And there's all kinds of toddlers and kids, and they're moving around. Well, nowadays, parents would be up there going, no, get away. Not when we were kids, man. You get up there around that TV, pull that sucker off on your head. I bet you won't do it twice.
Yeah.
That's just the way that things were done back then, man.
Well, we had a floor TV, the old big, big piece of furniture looking thing. We had a floor TV
console.
Yeah. Well, it was just one piece. It wasn't like the TV with the radio and everything else on there. We had one of those. We had a turntable, radio, big stereo, the hi-fi, the stereo system. We had one of those. Yeah.
That was back in the day when an entertainment center was really an entertainment center. It wasn't something that you put the TV into. Right.
Anyway, these kids today don't know what it means to have a TV warm up. I mean, I could just imagine, because you used to turn the TV on and you would sit there and wait, for the TV. You can hear the sound. There's no picture yet. And then it slowly
tubes got to warm up.
Yeah. TV had to warm up. So, yeah. And then, you sat about 2 feet from the screen because, you got to reach up there and change the channel. There's no remote control. So that's why you sat so close to the screen.
I was the remote control.
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to change the channel. Once the channel was on, whatever it was on, I wasn't changing the channel if my dad was watching TV. Now, if I was watching, I'm changing the channel.
Yeah.
But, my brother's still a short attention span theater. Commercials on. I'm like, what are you doing, man? Don't worry about it. I ain't watching this commercial. I'm like, God. Just leave it on that same station,
Yeah, and by the time you work your way back around to that original station,
it's already back
you've
on.
Missed missed half of the programming part, and you're halfway to the next.
Right.
You watch bits and pieces of 5 different shows, and you don't see enough of any of the. Oh man, don't get me started.
Oh, we were talking, this is going way away from football now. We were talking about old TV shows, like we always do. Talk about old TV shows, okay? So, they all had a formula. Speaking of that, you knew certain things were going to happen. Like, you watched the Rockford Files. Did you ever watch Rockford Files as a kid?
Yeah.
Okay. You knew at the bottom half of the hour, Jim Rockford was going to get the crap beat out of him by the bad guys. And he's going to be at a scene of a crime. The police chief or whoever his buddy was, it was in the detective. That was in the police department. Yeah, I can't remember I can picture him. I just can't remember his name off the top of my head. But anyway, he's going to walk in and find Rockford trying to come to in the middle of a crime scene. I mean, someone's dead, something got stolen, he screwed up the investigation essentially. So now Jim's got to solve it in the next 20 minutes or whatever. It's just like the Incredible Hulk. You knew he was going to change at the bottom of the hour. Bill Bixby's going to change at least once in the bottom of the hour, and at 5 or 10 minutes till.
Yeah,
that was the second time he was going to change, and that was when he was going to solve everything. So, they all had a formula. So you're watching a program, and it took me a while after watching these things, to figure out how that formula went. So I knew if you change the channel to the commercial, I knew what part we were going to miss. And that was for the Incredible Hulk, how Bill Bixby was going to change. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see what was going to happen to him. Does, some guy beat the hell out of him, throw him in the dumpster, and now all of a sudden, you hear that sound and the eyes turn green, and you're like, okay, it's on. These guys are about to get messed up. And the Hulk, he changes, and the Hulk comes blowing out of the dumpster and ready to go beat somebody up. So that's what I wanted to see. It's the whole reason why you sat through that whole show. You didn't care about this girl. You didn't care about the guys in the blue sedan who were the villains, because every villain drove a blue sedan. You didn't care about him. You didn't care about any of that. All you wanted to see was when Bill Bixby changed into the Hulk. That's what you wanted to see.
I can remember I don't know about you, but we lived way out in the country for most of my life, which meant you had rabbit ears and tinfoil and string. Well, if you ever had something that you really wanted to watch and you were on kind of an iffy station, one of your 3 stations that you could pick up, if you were on an iffy station, you didn't change it, because if you changed it and came back to it, chances are that because your TVs weren't digital then. You was up there turning a knob.
Analog.
And I can remember my mom and dad gave both me and my younger sister TVs. I think hers was kind of a hand-me-down that they used to use. But we had the big TV in the living room, and on New Year's Day, when the bowl games were being played on New Year's Day, as they're supposed to be, if you'll check the Constitution, that's written in there somewhere, my dad would have the big TV with the main game that he wanted to watch, and he would get my TV, put it on one side on top, and put my sister's TV, and have all 3 of them tune to different ball games at the same time.
Well, the funny thing is, it's funny you mentioned that, because in the 80s, when I was in college and I was in New Iberia and Lafayette, back then the Saints, it's hard to believe, but the Saints didn't sell out, even during the Dome Patrol years. They didn't sell out a whole heck of a lot. So because the blackout area went as far as Baton Rouge, when CBS had the NFC package, I theoretically got 3 games, because I got the CBS affiliate in Lafayette as well as the CBS affiliate in Baton Rouge on the basic cable system that I had. So, Channel 9 would have one NFC game, whatever the big game was or the regional game was that weekend. And the Saints game, would be on Channel 10 from KLFY Lafayette. So I could watch those 2 games, plus the NBC channel would have the AFC game back then. So, I got 3 different football games on at that time.
Dick Enberg.
Oh my. Yeah, Dick Enberg, and Charlie Jones and Kurt Gowdy back in the 70s and early 80s.
The guy that used to play for the Dolphins. What was his name?
For the Dolphins?
Yeah. Give me a second. I'll think of it. This was in the 80s, I think. Anyway, of course, Dan Fouts eventually went to NBC and then moved to ABC, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, they used to have Paul McGuire on there. They used to have Cricky, Don Cricky.
Don Cricky was who I was trying to think of.
Yeah, Don Cricky. You had the old tight end from the Cincinnati Bengals, Trumpy, Bob Trumpy. That was the NBC announcers. That was the standard crew. And on CBS, you had Hank Stram, you had Madden Summerall, you had
Musburger.
Well, Musburger did the pregame show, the NFL Today, with Irv Cross. But you had Bender, Gary Bender. You had Merlin Olsen was on NBC too. That was their number one team. Merlin Olsen would be on that as a color analyst because a lot of Dick Enberg, Merlin Olsen did a lot of the playoff games. The drive, the fumble, some of the Buffalo games. I can remember watching those games.
I watched. I loved watching the Super Bowl broadcast when Enberg would do it.
Well, what was the first Super Bowl you remember watching?
Oh my Lord! Probably, I can't remember the number. Dallas, Pittsburgh 1, or maybe Dallas, Denver.
That was Super Bowl 10, the Super Bowl 11, or Super Bowl 12. I mean, Super Bowl 12. Yeah. The first one I remember watching was Super Bowl 10, Dallas, Pittsburgh, at the Orange Bowl. That's the first one I can actually remember what was going on in the game and watching it. I was at my friend Steven's house, and we watched it in his they turned the garage into like a den, playroom / playroom. So that's where we ended up watching it, where all the adults were in another room watching on the nice TV. We had to watch it on black and white TV. That was the first one I remember actually sitting there watching the game was Super Bowl 10. My dad got to go to Super Bowl 4. All the ones were at Tulane Stadium. Super Bowl 4, Super Bowl 6, and Super Bowl 9. He was at all three of them.
Well, that Dallas-Denver game was in the Dome, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. And my dad chose not to go to that one because he said, this is going to sound hilarious. He's like, I think the tickets were $25 or $35. And my dad's like, they got to be out of their mind. People pay that much for a ticket to a ball game.
Oh, wow.
Hey, that's 77, 78, back then. So he didn't go to that one. He said, I'm going to watch it on TV. Meanwhile, he went to Super Bowl 9, which is the coldest game, I think, at that time. In fact, I think that was the coldest game until they played in New York.
That was Pittsburgh and Minnesota.
Pittsburgh and Minnesota, yeah. And my dad is ordering ice cold beer while they're sitting there freezing to death. He's drinking beer the whole time. And my best friend's dad went with him. He's like, Alan, how can you drink that stuff? He's like, oh, it doesn't matter to me. It's always time for a cold beer.
What was your favorite Super Bowl?
Super Bowl 13.
Now, wait a minute. Let me preface this by saying
second Pittsburgh, Dallas. Not counting the Saints one, of course.
Yeah. The Saints Super Bowl is off the table. Your favorite Super Bowl outside of that you watched?
Super Bowl 13. Definitely. That was probably because that was the two best teams of the 70s facing off, and that was a high-scoring game that really wasn't decided until the final minutes of the game. That was probably the best, my favorite Super Bowl, and my favorite playoff game, and I always tell people this, the greatest playoff game I ever watched, again, not Saints, just in general, is the Miami-San Diego Chargers won in the Orange Bowl in 1981.
Absolutely.
I watched that game in my parents' room because my dad didn't care about either of those teams. And I liked the Chargers because Chuck Muncie was on the team, Wes Chandler was on the team, and I liked that style of football they played, which is very reminiscent of the type of football the Saints play today.
Yep.
Air Coryell. I just enjoyed watching Air Coryell. Everything about it was exciting to watch, and that was one of those games I was sitting there watching. This is the best football game I have ever watched, because it wasn't going to end easily. It didn't end easily, and I had seen the '77 Colts Raiders game. I watched that at my kitchen table. In fact, on a little tiny portable black and white TV, I watched that game. So I saw, that double overtime game that goes to the post, the whole bit. I was pulling for the Colts that day. So, but I saw that game, but the Chargers Dolphins game was so much better for me because it was almost like the last team that had the ball was going to win. And then at the end, they were running out of gas. I mean, they were exhausted. And so it wasn't just so much the last team with the ball was going to win anymore. It was the only team that doesn't collapse from exhaustion is going to win this game.
And
so
Kellen Winslow, man, they had to carry him off the field how many times? And he would just keep coming back.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and he just totally cramped up at the end. But yeah, that was it's just an amazing. I've watched the replay, I've watched the rebroadcast of the game, on YouTube and things like that. And it was a very entertaining playoff game, unlike any I had ever seen up until that time. Obviously there are other playoff games I've watched. Back when NFL Network didn't suck, they used to go. NFL Network sucks now. They don't show anything anymore. They it's too much original programming, too much, just stupid things they film. And in the early days of the network, it sounds so funny because the network's only 10 years old. 15 years old, maybe at most. I think it started in 2003, so it's 15 years. Jeez. But in the early days, they used to replay old games. Aside from NFL replay, they would get NFL films, or they'd find a network broadcast. And I watched the Hail Mary game, the Dallas Minnesota game, and I'll be honest with you, compared to today's football, it's very boring to watch. Because it's a lot of running. It's, very basic offense where, the backs are in a single wing or a split back and they run off tackle, they run up the middle. That's both offenses.
Yeah.
And when they go to throw the ball, it's all deep passes or sideline passes. There's none of this. Maybe they throw to the backs, but it's nothing like how you see today with the flare out passes and the flat and everything else like that. All that stuff hadn't come yet. So it's very basic offenses. So, yeah, it's a lot of, 3rd and 7. Oh, look, a draw play, that kind of stuff. I mean, you that's what you see. Or 3rd and 7, here comes a bomb, and, they didn't complete it. So it's funny because I enjoy the players of the 70s, and I enjoy watching NFL Films version of the 70s football game. But when you watch the actual games, it's not nearly as exciting. That's tremendous editing, and of course John Facenda and the music make those games seem more exciting than they really are.
Da-da.
Oh, if you try and watch, I have Super Bowl III somewhere. I taped it off a V8, with VHS videotape. I have Super Bowl III I used to have it on a DVR, and I had a few other places. You watch that game. That is the most boring football game you have ever seen in your life.
That's what I remember most about that Dallas-Denver Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Was how every time either team would get any type of momentum, they'd blow it. They'd fumble. They'd throw an interception.
Yeah.
If Denver had any quarterback in the world besides Craig Morton, they would have absolutely destroyed Dallas that day.
You know, you say that, but at the same time, Dallas's defensive line really dominated the Broncos' offensive line. And yeah, I'm a little biased because the Raiders should have been in that game. That game was stolen from them. I've watched the replay of that game too. Well, he doesn't get in the end. He doesn't cross the line of scrimmage. He fumbles. He doesn't break the goal line. He fumbles. So it should have been Raiders' ball right there, but that was the deciding touchdown for the Broncos. I always wondered what would have been like if Super Bowl 12 be Raiders against the Cowboys. Now, the Raiders weren't as good in 77 as they were in 76. They were more beat up. I think Fred Biletnikoff got knocked out of the game in the AFC Championship game. But it was one of those games, and I will say the same thing about the Cleveland Browns in 86 and 87. I think the Browns were a better team than the Broncos in both of those games.
Sure.
But in both cases, the Broncos won because the Browns just did not close it out.
They blinked.
Yeah. Well, especially 87. I think Browns versus Redskins in 1987 would have been a much better Super Bowl than Broncos Redskins.
Well, I think Riser Junior High versus the Redskins would have been a better Super Bowl that year than the Broncos versus the Redskins.
Yeah, just the Browns were built like an NFC team, so it would have been a good game, and that's why I think it would have been nice to have seen in '77 one of the the Broncos not in there, one of the big six, because there were six powerhouses in the '70s that were always in the Super Bowl. This goes to what we were talking about with basketball before we went on air. In the 70s, it was either going to be the Cowboys, the Vikings, or the Rams in the NFC going to the Super Bowl. In the AFC, it was the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Raiders. Those were the three powerhouses. And then you had, the Colts show up one year. You had the Broncos show up one year. But all the rest of them were some kind of combination of Steelers, Vikings, Steelers, Cowboys, Steelers, Rams, Dolphins, Cowboys. Yeah. Dolphins, Cowboys. That's where all the Super Bowls of that decade from 71 after the merger, from 71 to 79 or 80, it was one of those six teams was going to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I agree with that. And if you look into the next era or decade or however you want to talk about it, it was always going to be Dallas, San Francisco, and then you'd have another team sneak in there every so often. But usually it was going to be either the Cowboys or the 49ers.
Well, a lot of people forget, the Cowboys. That was the end. Roger Staubach had to retire in 1980 because of too many concussions. So Danny White takes over, and Danny White takes him to 3 consecutive NFC Championship games. The famous one with the catch against the 49ers. And then he brought him in there in 82 and 83. And that was the end of the Cowboys. Because by that time, all of the 70s players, the late 70s players, had now reached the point of retirement. You were now, Drew Pearson was old, Randy White was old, Ed Too Tall Jones was old. All those guys had gotten old by 83, and even Danny White was gone by 84, 85.
Yeah. Gary
Hogeboom, Steve Pallore, who the Saints had his brother, Scott Pallore, on the roster. That's Jimmy Johnson's Cowboys, but yeah. Babe Laufenberg, who also was a backup quarterback for the Saints. Yeah.
He was drafted by the New Orleans Saints, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
And now, if I'm not mistaken, that was in the quarterback draft, as they call it, of 1983.
I think you're right. I have to go back and look, but yeah, Babe Laufenberg. Well,
If I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, and I'm just going off of memory here, which is a scary concept in and of itself, but I think Babe Laufenberg to the Saints was the last quarterback taken in that draft.
probably, you're probably
And
right.
he was such an outstanding player that he now does play by play for the Cowboys.
Well, in the current Cowboys coach was once Jason Garrett was once a Saints backup quarterback as well. He was a little redheaded, number 12. Never took a snap. Was the third string quarterback, and I think the Saints cut him, and he ended up signing with the Cowboys. But he was either
Played
the
with the Giants too, I think.
Yeah, either 87 or 88. He was on that roster as a backup quarterback, maybe even 89, but he was a backup quarterback back then.
I don't know. I'd have to look that up to know for sure.
I have to go back and I have all my posters. I've got roster posters that they used to give away at the game, the final game of the season. They would give away a sponsored poster. It was a team photo poster. That's what they used to do at the end of the season in the Dome. So, they'd hand out these rolls of posters and stuff. So that's where I got most of my Saints posters way back in the day. It was, last game of the season. That's where you got them.
Man, as many moves as I've faced over the years, if I had gotten something that long ago, it never would have survived this long.
I got it's in my attic. I have a whole box full of posters. You think this is bad. This is just for in here. When I was a kid, every square inch of the walls in my room were covered in posters. I had superhero posters. I had football posters. I had space posters. I had military posters. I had all kinds of stuff.
I bet you never had AC/DC, though, did you?
No, I did not. And I had Morgan Fairchild on my closet door and Daisy Duke. I was a teenage boy after all.
My mom would give me like $5 to go get the latest Hit Parader or Circus magazine, and 2 days later she'd walk in my room and I'd have every picture that I could in there cut out and hanging Scotch tape to the wall, and she would be pissed. If you wanted posters, buy posters. I give you that money for a magazine, and now you've made it scrap.
Oh, my parents didn't care. They just closed my bedroom door. I had a poster on my door, in fact, that you are now entering the Twilight Zone. My grandmother walked in one time. She says, "Doesn't it make you nervous, all these people looking at you?" I'm like, "No, not at all.
It didn't.
No, why would that make me nervous?"
As I got older and my vanity will come through here, I had someone that took a photo of me when we were playing somewhere, and it was the coolest picture I think it was the coolest picture that had ever been taken, and they had it made into a 2 foot by 3 foot poster print and gave it to me. And I hung it up for a little while, and then I got nervous because, like you said, the eyes were following me, and I just said, it's creepy to have myself looking at myself, so I rolled it back up and put it back in the tube.
I was always the kind of kid, I guess, that I liked having, scenes from different stuff, and, anything I really liked as far as art, I try and imitate that art or whatever. So, having football pictures, having, posters of comic books and military stuff, all that stuff really appealed to me. But anyway, let's see. What else are we going to talk about? There ain't a whole hell of a lot to talk about today. We had other stuff. I mean,
we're giving them a glimpse of what it's like to sneak a listen to us before we go on the air, because this is our conversations every week.
Yeah.
Usually, before we go on the air, this is what we talk about, and then after we go off the air, we'll talk until YouTube completely cuts our link off.
That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Uh, I've been doing these best of who wore it better jersey stories and stuff like that. Talking about some of these players and everything. And today was 22, and tomorrow's going to be 23, and I already know who everybody's going to pick. Actually, I don't know because it's going to be.
I bet you I can tell you who they'll pick.
For 23, who are they going to pick?
Most of them, I would assume, would go for Marshawn Lattimore.
It's the four players are going to be Dave Witzel, Buford Jordan, Pierre Thomas, and Marshawn Lattimore.
Pierre.
Yeah, I think
Marshawn's got to take a few more snaps before he catches Pierre, and in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. As much as I enjoy your articles, the only thing that I was sitting there looking at it the other day, and when I got through with it, I said, he needs a poll at the end of it to see which one wore it better.
Yeah. And some of the people are taking the bait, and I should do that, I guess. I should put the poll in there. I just don't want to get 10,000 updates on a poll. But I'll probably start doing that because 22 I thought would be closer, but it's all going to Porter, Tracy Porter.
Yeah.
I thought Ingram's got some love, and I knew that Lorenzo Neal and Gil Fenerty wouldn't get any, that much attention at all. The best part about Lorenzo Neal is talking about the fight, him punching Mario Bates and breaking his jaw because he wouldn't buy a round of drinks. I found the New York Times or the UPI article online of the actual incident, and the official word was they were disagreeing on playing time. That's not what was going on. Lorenzo Neal's a fullback.
And Willie Snead had a pulled hamstring when he came back last year.
Yeah. I mean, that was exactly it. He pulled the rookie card on him. He said, you're the rookie. You're making the big money because this is before the salary cap and all that other stuff as far as the rookie wage scale. As a second-round pick, he still had a pretty good-sized contract compared to what Neal was playing off of as a fourth-round pick the year before. He told Bates it was your turn to buy for everybody, and Bates wouldn't do it. So that was old Ricky Jackson's Club 57.
Oh wow!
The other story about Ricky's Club 57. It used to be on the airport. It used to be right by the airport. You could see it from I-10, right there at I-10 in Loyola. When you get off at that exit, it used to be right there by that exit. It's long gone. I mean, they tore all that stuff down years ago. But Ricky Jackson also, that's where he got into his car accident. You know about that?
Yeah.
In 1989, his Corvette that he piled in the back.
I think the game where Walter Payton actually broke the record.
No, that was 84. That was 84.
He
this was 89.
Had
this
his
was
jaw
89.
wired shut.
Yes. That's when he changed his face mask and went to that cave. Face mask was after that because he had broke his jaw. But it was a flat bed. You got to think about this now. This was a flat bed tow truck, like what you see on the highway today. And he had a Corvette that sat low to the ground. So he piled in the back of that thing. By all rights, it should have beheaded him. But he ducked or whatever, and he broke his jaw when the steering wheel came up at him because he totaled that vet. And he missed 1 week.
Yeah.
Came back and played with that face mask, to protect his face and keep him for his jaw, to protect his jaw too. That's just amazing. That really is. I should have told the story. I should have done 3. My wife's like, how come you didn't do 3? I said, I thought about doing 3, but, it's Bobby Hebert versus John Carney. And, John Carney, I got to talk about the Mississippi, the River City Relay where he misses that. That's his big thing. But Hebert's got some good stories to tell. And Hebert, the story I could tell, and I told a little bit with John Forcade when we played Tampa Bay that year. This was right before the Ricky Jackson car accident. Hebert had gotten his front teeth knocked out and got a concussion, and Dalton Hilliard had to call the plays because Hebert was out with a concussion. 4K comes in. 4K plays a series, and he scrambles to run out of the pocket and try and get out of bounds. And the guy basically horse collars him. They didn't call it back then, but it was a horse collar. Bent his knee back, hyperextended his knee, so now 4K can't walk. So they put Hebert back in there with a concussion and no teeth, no front teeth. He can't talk. He doesn't know the plays, doesn't know what's going on around him. You got Dalton Hilliard calling the plays. And Paul Boudreaux, the offensive line coach, says, tells his offensive lineman, I don't care if you hold on every down, nobody touches Hebert because he'll die. I mean, if somebody hits him, he's dead because he doesn't know what he's doing. And Hebert has said on the radio he has no memory of that game. None.
I can remember when Hebert played his college ball at Northwestern. Mm-hmm. His junior year, I believe. Back then, the State Fair Classic in Shreveport consisted of Louisiana Tech playing Northwestern. Mm-hmm. And that went on for the longest time. It was, I want to say it was his junior year they played, and he didn't get to play because he was injured. But the following year, his final game in college, Northwestern came to Monroe to play ULM, or NLU then, which is now ULM. And for some reason, I think, again, due to injury, Hebert didn't start that game. I want to say the kid's name was Van. But he started the game, and at the half, NLU had them 28-0. Halftime, they made the switch and put Hebert in at quarterback. And with, I think, inside of 15, 20 seconds left in the game, it was 28-27, and Northwestern lined up for a 2-point conversion. Because, see, you got to remember, that long ago, there was no overtime in college ball. If you kick a 1-point conversion and you tie it up and the clock runs out, it's just a tie.
It's a tie ball game. Yep.
And they lined up for the 2-point conversion, and Hebert drilled the tight end between the 8 and the 8. I mean, hit him right in the breastplate. Sounded like a cannon going off, and the dude dropped the ball, so they lost by 1 point, and that was his last college ball game.
And the funny thing is, he wasn't even drafted. It was just amazing that, because I watched Hebert in the USFL, and again, this is because back then ESPN, again, back in the day, ESPN had a whole lot of nothing they were showing. I mean, I saw really.
You used to be able to watch pool tournaments and two white guys be bought. That's how you knew that you was getting home late, is if you turned on ESPN, there was 2 white guys in a boxing ring.
Because I saw Australian rules football.
Yeah,
I used to watch CFL football on there. That's where I saw Warren Moon. And I watched the USFL in the early 80s on ESPN. And you saw things like log tossing. That I remember that, log tossing. What was some of the other? They had like bizarre sports I'd never heard of, and you never saw again. I saw the Japanese football all-stars played against William & Mary College, and William & Mary College just destroyed this poor team. I felt so bad because these were like probably the best of Japanese football players, and nobody was over 6 feet, you know. And William and Mary is just demolishing these guys. I'm like, why are you televising this? It's like 96-0. You know, why are you showing this? I mean, this is humiliating. You know, at least put the Japanese baseball player all-stars or something like that on.
You know,
that's why I saw A-Bear, though, was a USFL football.
Yeah, Chicago Blitz.
Mm-hmm.
And later that team morphed into...
I used to know all the teams off the top of my head. You had the Oakland Invaders, the LA Express, the
Tampa Bay Bandits,
Houston Gamblers, New Jersey Generals,
Chicago Blitz,
because Bobby Scott played with Chicago Blitz. You had the Philadelphia Stars, Boston, Portland, New Orleans Breakers. You had the
Memphis Showboats,
Reggie White
Jim
was
Kelly
on that team. Jim Kelly was on the Houston Gamblers.
He started with the Memphis Showboats.
You had the San Antonio team. I can't think of the name of them, but Stampeders.
No, San Antonio.
No, Stampeders was CFL. That was CFL. Calgary
Stampeders.
Yeah.
Arizona Wranglers.
Yeah. Denver Gold, Pittsburgh Maulers. God. See, what happened, too, is a lot of teams moved.
New Orleans Breakers was a relocation deal.
Yes, they came from Boston first. 3 years. They went Boston in 83, New Orleans in 84, and that was coached by Dick Corey and owned by Cannizzaro, who was, I believe, the guy who bought the Zephyrs, the minor league baseball team, to New Orleans.
Yeah.
You had, and then he went to Portland after that. But the big star was Marcus Dupree from Oklahoma, and you had Buford Jordan on that team.
Yep.
But that's I used to have the poster of when they arrived in New Orleans, but I still have this bumper sticker, I believe, in New Orleans Breakers. That was but the thing about the USFL, they had so much movement and then merging of teams. Oh, Michigan Panthers. That's who
that's who Chicago.
That's who Bobby Hebert played for, Michigan Panthers.
Yeah, and then went to Chicago.
Yeah, and then became he went to Oakland at the end because they became the Oakland Invaders. But
why couldn't I remember that?
Yeah, the LA Express had Steve Young. That was the $8 million. The first quarterback they paid $8 million to, and that was a huge deal because how much money he got paid. You had Doug Flutie was in New Jersey with Herschel
Walker.
That was
ironically enough, that's the only two players they had.
Yeah. Well, every team had one or two players, and I remember them because when they got to the NFL, that's the guys who became stars. Like Alan Risher from LSU played in the USFL. You know,
for Arizona.
He never ended up in the NFL, or if he did, I don't remember him in the NFL.
He had one play that I can remember seeing when it was a 2-point conversion, where he dropped back in the pocket and the pocket became about 60 yards deep. And I think he was just so exhausted that he was about to finally get sacked, and he just flung it and they caught it for a 2-point conversion, but it was like a 60-yard pass.
Yeah. It's just,
I think probably the most successful team, not necessarily by trophy count, although that would be worth looking into, but in terms of transferring stars to the National Football League, was probably the Philadelphia Stars.
Yeah, Philadelphia Baltimore Stars. Yeah, because that was Jim Moore. That's where Sam Mills came from. They had a lot of good players on the team.
Colin Bryant.
Yeah. The funny thing was, you remember the Cardiac Kids, that Browns team at the
Mm-hmm.
end? A lot of those players kind of, Brian Sipe went off to the USFL, and the Browns were not the same after that. That team fell apart until they hired Marty Schottenheimer to turn that team around in the mid '80s. And of course, they got all the teams got this infusion of great talent from the USFL. But it was funny in the beginning, you almost wanted to start watching USFL just because it was new football. And then you were kind of like the cool guy who, yeah, I know these guys because these are really good college players, that screw the NFL. They're playing a better kind of football in the spring football kind of thing. They got cool names. They got good, location teams and stuff like that. So it was fun to watch USFL.
And I'm really anxious to see, and hear me out now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really anxious to see what McMahon is going to do with this XFL.
Well, his first time around when he hate me, and the beginning, the scrum for the football,
yeah,
and whoever comes up with it, here's the thing, and this is why the NFL is the way it is, and why no other team can do what the AFL did back in the 60s. USFL had a good chance of doing it. The mistake was, and our president is is big time to blame, trying to get into the NFL, force a merger too soon. If he would have stayed in the spring for about 5 to 7 years instead of just 3 years, in the third year we're going head to head with the NFL, he would have had a chance to get it going. The problem with leagues today is the amount of money and overexposure the NFL has today versus what it was like in the 60s and even the early 80s for the AFL and the USFL. So I don't know if he's going to be able to do it or not.
Well, right now, the funny thing is you can start your own media market. I mean,
yeah,
we're living proof. If you don't like the programming, you can create your own. So much easier now than you could before.
But it's the money. It's the
yeah.
money, though. You have to be able to make the money at it. You
but
have
see,
to get the television contracts.
The thing with McMahon is he's hitting on, as per his opening address that he made. And I watched it, and it was very interesting because he wasn't that flamboyant, over-the-top WWE Vince McMahon that everybody knows. He was the businessman, and finances is not going to be an issue for him. What will be an issue, in my opinion, the NFL has cornered the market. You're not going to play on ABC. You're not going to play on Fox. You're not going to play on NBC. You're not going to play on ESPN. You're not going to play on the NFL Network. Because if you allow them on your network, you will not carry one of our games. They have all the bargaining power.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's going to have to be an independent, for lack of a better way of putting it, second-tier broadcaster, such as...
Well, go ahead and finish your sentence, because I got a good rejoinder to that, but go ahead.
It's going to have to be, and I hate to say it this way, a second-tier broadcast entity such as the USA Network, like with the WWE product that McMahon puts out, and those other different places, other different outlets like that, is going to be where it has to get a start. But as per his message, he's hitting on all the things that were such sticking points for the fans over the past couple of seasons. The whole the whole protest issue. If you protest, you will not. If you have a criminal record, you will not be allowed to play in our league. Blah blah blah. All that stuff. I'm really interested to see what he's going to be able to do with it.
Well, And this is what I was just thinking about. Actually, if he could hit into the online market, if he can get onto, say, Netflix or Amazon Fire or something like that, where you have a subscription service to the games, or he's making his money somehow that way, going direct to online, where you watch it on your phone, on your computer, wherever. Like you watch Netflix, like you watch Amazon Prime, like you watch whatever. That could be an avenue. But here's the thing: you're going to have to get the top athletes to keep people interested. I mean, that's what happened in the AFL. That's what happened in the USFL. The USFL got a lot of good athletes because back then there was no free agency. So the only people who were making any kind of money were draft picks. The veterans weren't making much money. So you actually had people bargaining and gambling, trying to get a player, a top college player like a Doug Flutie, like a Herschel Walker. That's one possibility, but you're going to eventually come into contact or run head to head with the NFL. And now, just for the top talent, and now that football is a year-round business, which it wasn't at the time of the USFL.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the dates that the Super Bowl used to be played on. They used to have the playoff games in December, and the Super Bowl was played in January. January 15th was a typical date for a Super Bowl game. Now it's the first week of February. Okay. You're shrinking the window of non-football stuff because what happens after the Super Bowl? The NFL Combine. What happens after that? The NFL Draft. What happens free agency? Sorry, then the NFL Draft. This is the only dead time, 6 weeks right now. So you almost need to have summer football, which is really hard to do.
It is.
And because you can get away with it in the spring, it's cool enough still in the north that you can get away with, spring football. The other thing is, too, so many owners now own the facilities they play in. Unless Gail Benson owns an XFL team is not going to be able to play in the Superdome.
Yeah.
Okay. Even though she doesn't own the Superdome, she'd have control over that. Plus, it's bidded out for other events, Essence Fest, all these things that go on, Mardi Gras balls, all that stuff that goes on when football season is not going on. An XFL team is not going to be able to play in Jerry's World. An XFL team is not going to be able to play in some of these other stadiums. They're going to have to play in lesser facilities until they can afford to build their own facility. Unless they go to a non-NFL market like an XFL team in San Diego, an XFL team in
Los Angeles.
Well, you would have to go to the Coliseum, Oakland, or Baltimore. Even though it's an NFL team, you could put one theoretically somewhere in Maryland.
We could let them go to Atlanta because there's not an NFL team there.
No, there hasn't been an NFL team ever there. It's just a joke there.
Oh.
But yeah, you would have to go to, Birmingham. You'd have to go to Memphis. You'd have to go to San Antonio. You might be able to beat the NFL to the international market. Put a team in Mexico City. Put a team in Canada.
And see, that's one. Real quickly to sum this up.
Yeah,
that's another thing that I found very interesting about this entire enterprise is the fact that not a single team is going to be under any ownership except McMahon. He will own every team in the league. So I'm really interested to see how that's going to work out.
I am too. You have to have a good business plan. He obviously has one. It's just where does he go with it? How does he differentiate it, but still make it accessible to fans? where do you broadcast? Where do you get your revenue from to show that you're making money at the program? I mean, there's a lot of things you have to go through, and it's a different time. And the NFL, we all talk about the NFL being this juggernaut. The NFL is losing members, is losing viewership. Ratings are declining, whether it's the protests, whether it's the oversaturation, whether it's Thursday Night Football, whatever. The NFL is losing revenue. They're losing audience share. So there is an opportunity for someone to jump in there if they know where they want to go with this. So I'll be interested to see what happens.
Well, we thank everyone for joining us tonight on Under the
Absolutely.
Dome. Sorry we got a late start, but as we give you your full hour's worth.
Yes, you do. Yes, we do.
And we will we'll probably put this in the category of behind the scenes extras on the DVD set for season number 2. We want to thank Fan First Productions for sponsoring our show. I forgot to pay the bills at the beginning, but that's okay. We want to thank John Pinto, Joel Smith, the security man, Mr. Jerry Poor. Thank you so much for all that you guys do. And I especially want to give a shout out and thanks to all the men and women that keep this country free and allow us to have the freedom to do what we do and enjoy the lives that we are able to enjoy. Thank you so much. Salute you guys. And thank you, Alan, for another great session, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, listen, it's firework time. I got a poor dog. I got to tranquilize because, she just loses her mind with fireworks. I had 2 dogs before. One would they were little, so they would be scared and just curl up next to you the whole time. Think about that when you're setting up these fireworks. This is not New Year's Eve. Don't be popping that shit at midnight and 11, 10 o'clock at night. Don't go Jason Pierre-Paul on us either and blow your hand off. But I mean, be responsible for fireworks. When it gets to be 7, 8 o'clock at night, cut that shit off. Okay, I know you bought a small arsenal of fireworks. Pop that crap during the day. People have dogs. Dogs do not handle fireworks well because it's random. They don't know what it is, and it gets them really upset. My poor dog, she's a rescue dog. I don't want to say she was abused, but she was neglected by her previous owner. So she, even though you think is over all these things, loud noises, things like that really upset her. And it's not fair to your little furry friends. So, think about that when you're setting off these fireworks. Okay.
That's a polite way of saying, don't make us hunt you down.
I mean, New Year's Eve, it was horrible for her.
Yeah.
And I felt bad, trying to get her to calm down. And hey, it's New Year's Eve. I get it. And I like seeing fireworks. I like it. But I'm also a human being who understands what the significance in all this is. A dog just doesn't. For all a dog knows is just loud noises. So with that in mind, want to wish you all a very happy, safe 4th of July, and we'll let Lee Greenwood take us out. Thank you, guys.